Hello, everyone.
Hey guys, Chase Kosterlitz
Sarah Kosterlitz.
from idopodcast.com, and we just got finished up with our two guests today and wanted to do a little post-show recap and give you some information on what we learned and how you can apply that to the relationships in your life.
Yeah.
So our first guest was Daria Hatoglu, and she was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good, and the main thing we got it written down here that we took away was the acronym
Enrich.
Yep, Enrich for your relationship, and run down it real quick what it stands for, and these are things you want to apply to your relationship. But E for explore relationship. N nourish versus deplete. R, respond versus react. I, imagine versus willpower. C, communicate, don't assume. And H, hug. That's an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, we'll just kind of run through each one. Go for it.
I think, explore was explore breathing. And I think for me, one thing that really stood out is she talked about how if you're stressed, or she used the example of being hungry. She got hungry, and then she just looked at her daughter and noticed how her daughter was breathing just by looking at her shoulders, and tried to follow her breath. And it really kind of calmed her down because she was hungry, she was getting angry. And so the idea was to recenter herself. And so she looked at her daughter, slowed her breathing down, and was able to have a conversation, and it helped her. So I think for me that I will find super helpful, especially if I'm like stressed with Stella or
our daughter,
and which I'm sure she'll make an appearance here in a second.
She's trying to.
I think so. Yeah, for me that really resonated, and I really liked that example because I feel like I can use that personally, my day-to-day routine.
Yeah, and the exercise she talked about, it's a practice where you mimic your partner's breathing, like you both try to breathe at the same rate. So we're gonna practice.
We won't practice now.
You can practice. We'll try that. We'll try that after this video. So yeah, that was really good. And then the N, nourish versus deplete. So nourish the relationship. It's like she used the account or the analogy of a bank account, and that you're making deposits into the bank account and not always taking out, because if you're always taking out, it's going to disappear. And with a relationship, you may always be depleting it and taking in negativity, and where we want to put positivity into it and nourish it. And we all want to be rich in our relationship. So the more you're nourishing it, the better. Yeah.
Awesome. The next is respond versus react. And in this situation, she talked about the sandwich strategy, which is, for me, I felt I try to use that with you.
I probably don't.
Yeah,
yeah,
you do. It's where the sandwich strategy is if there's something that is bothering you with your partner and you want to talk to them, try with a positive reinforcement first, followed by the negativity or the issue that is bothering you, and then followed up with something positive. And then it kind of, hopefully, will leave it on a positive note versus a negative, and you'll be able to move forward from that in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. Like if you have something to say, like you didn't clean up the dishes, rather than be like you always leave the kitchen a mess.
Yeah. So what
Probably
would be a
me.
good way? Well, no.
So,
say
I'm kidding, but yeah. So instead, you would want to say,
"Thank you so much for doing the dishes."
Yeah.
But you missed a few.
Positive. Start with the positive.
Positive.
And
you missed a few.
Your feeling, which is negative a lot of times.
And then.
But
thank you again for
but thanks
trying.
again, and it makes a difference.
Yeah,
I think
so.
That's huge, and part of that is just like she said, responding and not reacting. Like naturally, we
get defensive.
Well, we get defensive, and we just have like these. I heard someone call them like first principles, that's kind of something else. But like our first reaction, like just naturally, we don't even think about it, and we're just like angry, and a lot of that's being mindful, and if you practice meditation and really, that's really valuable. But just being mindful of the reaction, like maybe just make it a practice, like take a deep breath and then respond. Don't react. Like reactions, like to me, that's something you don't even think about. Just comes out, like whatever's the first thing. So take a second, breathe, and respond, and then practice that same with strategy. Positive, what you're feeling, maybe negative, and then finish with a positive.
Yeah.
Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then I, in the Enrich, is imagine. And I thought this was cool too, is
versus willpower.
Yeah, versus willpower. Like willpower is like the action of do something, like you will something. I'll scoot over here.
Here we go.
This is our first one. Recenter.
Here we go.
And like willpower is the action of what we're doing, and then it's valuable to actually imagine things in your relationship. Imagine, and the power of our brains and imagination and visualization is the same as if you're actually doing something. Like our brain is releasing dopamine and chemicals that are the same chemicals that Daria used the example of, like you go on a vacation, like thinking about that vacation, describing it, imagining it, your brain is literally experiencing the same chemical release as if you were doing it on vacation. So, it's still nice to go places, but
you can practice that
every day,
basis.
right? Like every day you can practice that in your relationship. So imagine, it's just a good practice of like to things to look forward to, a vacation. Even imagining that before can help bring positivity and good things into your life.
Yeah.
Go for
C as communicate versus assume. And we all know what the saying assume is.
Makes an ass out of you and me. Yeah.
So we don't want to assume. Communication, I think we talk about it on almost all the podcasts. It's key to a successful relationship. You have to communicate. If there's no communication, then, things can slowly ripple and aren't good.
Deteriorate. Sorry, Stella's under the table.
Come here.
Bring her up here.
Oh.
You might as well introduce her.
She's in her sleepy PJs. Stella, can you look?
Say hi.
Say hi.
She's a.
What's that?
She loves the camera.
Hi. She just woke up from a nap a little bit ago. So. Yeah.
So communicate, and it's going to be important with her. It's in any relationship, if you're parenting, or if you're trying to succeed in your marriage, is communication. Don't assume that the other person knows what you're talking about. Right. That's a huge thing. And sometimes Sarah can get a little frustrated with me because she's like, she says something, and I think guys, or my personality is like, you really got to explain it. Like, yes, I might understand, but I'm not going to assume, or I try not to assume I know exactly what you're talking about. So that's just part of communication. Rather than getting frustrated that I don't know what she's trying to tell me because I'm not assuming it, like lay it out there, black and white. And then obviously you don't want to take that to the extreme.
Well, usually, for me, when that situation arises, it's usually because I'm frustrated. So, Stella needs something, or I'm trying to get something done and I can't, and so I just, say something assuming Chase knows what I'm talking about, but it's not. So, really, it comes down to me kind of taking a breath and not getting frustrated with myself, which can help the whole situation with communication. Yeah,
communicate. And then the last thing, I like this, and we hear this a lot, is hug. That physical connection of like a really meaningful hug, not just, kind of like a fake side hug that you give to someone you don't really like
real
that.
Hug.
Yeah. a real hug of where you're just kind of recentering, and it's just nice. I mean, I think and it speaks to your love languages, and we'll talk about that. We've talked about it, but everyone receives love differently. Some people as in the form of gifts and stuff that's bought for them. Some people in words and what people say, and I'm definitely in physical. And Stella's upset. Stella, come over here and give you a hug.
Come get a hug.
But in the physical, so hug, bring it back together, hug it out, do it every few minutes if you're around each other, if that's what it takes. But definitely that was valuable. So yeah, that was Dario Hatoglu, and we'll definitely have her back on. She's really cool and had a lot of valuable insight, and she's doing some cool things with some retreats and a summit that she's putting together in England next year. So maybe we'll have to go and check that out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. This is our first recap. It may not be chronologically on YouTube as our first, but maybe it will.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be doing this, and it's just kind of a way that we can recap what went on, that people can find us on YouTube, but check out our podcast on iTunes, I Do Podcast. Subscribe. Yep. Subscribe. Leave us a review. Leave us some comments in the sections if you want us to talk about specific things on the podcast, or maybe we expand this video and have guests on here. Really like the podcast medium. I love podcasts. I listen to a lot. You can listen to them in your car, when you're driving, when you're working out. YouTube, generally you got to be in front of the computer, but we appreciate you guys checking us out, and until next time, we'll see you.
See you later.
See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.